Welcome to the Daily Dope Show. I'm Brando, the guy that does the dope show for you here. Gives you the daily dope. Dope being the operative word here. We are talking about information. We're not talking about weed. Weed is never called dope. The only thing you call dope is that shit that comes in bottles. It makes you all dopey. Could be the Xanax, could be the fucking Vicodins, could be the strong stuff. Near rotten. People are doing lots of heavy doses of that, I hear. Hasn't been a lot of news lately in the weed world. We'll say it's been kind of slow, but there's been a few things that happened and I kind of missed it. I don't know if I'm going to be making a weekly clip, but I think I'm going to do like one of those deals where I just do the whole month and say like it's a summary for that month. The last time I did that, it was a pretty successful video. I think I got a lot of subscribers from it. Anywho, so there's an eclipse coming up on Monday, in case you didn't know. And this is one of those special times when it's a rare, but in some people's life, it might be considered a once-in-a-lifetime event, depending on when you were born and when you're going to die. So you might want to check into it. But what it is it's going to go through probably some of the places that you don't want to go and visit to smoke weed, or if you get caught with your medicine, it's not going to work out too well for you. And so we have here is a tale of two places that you could be. And I guess I'm asking you, like, where would you rather go see the eclipse? I mean, come on. Would you rather go to Wyoming, where word on the street is leave your weed at home? Wow. Now, if you look at Wyoming, it's mainly, there's nobody that lives there. Have you ever heard of any of these places? Rock Springs. Laramie, I'm sure people have heard of that just because of like movies or old westerns or something. I don't know. Buffalo, Wyoming. That sounds like some kind of something that's in a movie too. I don't know. It just doesn't sound real. And Jackson, someone will be like, I've heard of Jackson. Yeah, there's a Jackson in every town. Every state, whatever. Anyway, they don't want you to bring your weed. And that's sad because a lot of people, they need their medical marijuana. A lot of people in Wyoming need their medical marijuana. But it's simply like not legal at all. So, this is by Alicia Wallace, by the way. As Wyoming prepares for a massive influx of visitors for the coming eclipse, Colorado's neighbor to the north welcomes the migration, minus marijuana. The Wyoming Association of Sheriffs and Chiefs of Police, WASCOP, issued a warning Friday to visitors venturing to the state for the celestial phenomenon. Wyoming's marijuana laws will be strictly enforced. Quote, we want folks to enjoy the eclipse. Take it in, learn from it, but do it safely, said Byron Odekoven, executive director of WASCOP. Can I address that one real quick? Let me just say that I don't know what he's talking about with the safely thing now. They're strictly talking about marijuana here. All right, they're not talking about someone rolling into town on crystal meth or somebody like banging like needles full of heroin or something in their arm. Yeah, I'm a mess today. Jeez. Anyway, it's nothing like that. He's talking about marijuana. He's not talking. I don't get this. He's not talking about alcohol too, because that's really where the public safety thing starts getting fucky, is alcohol. The other ones, you might hurt yourself a little bit, or I'm sure if you're driving around, it could be dangerous if you're nodding out at the wheel and shit on those pills. But what is he talking about marijuana for? This makes no sense. Marijuana isn't dangerous. It's not toxic. You can't overdose on it. Um, and many would argue that it's really not that dangerous to drive after consuming marijuana. So I don't know what he's talking about. So the safety is a big issue for everybody that, is going to be talking about this stuff, whether it be in Wyoming or Missouri or Oregon, wherever else the eclipse is going to go through. You're going to hear about public safety over and over again. It's an overarching theme always, and it should be. We should always be on the lookout for people that are dangerously intoxicated on alcohol, whether they be driving down the road or confronting you in a violent way wherever in the public space. So be careful out there, guys. Because, these once in a lifetime weird celestial events have some kind of a way of just attracting the weirdest shit. So just be on the lookout for drunks, especially. Law enforcement are anticipating that Wyoming's 585,000 person population, like I said, could very well double in the 3 to 5 day stretch to view what is being hailed as a historic event on August 21st. You're kind of scaring a lot of people away, man. There are no motel rooms to be had in Casper. Casper, if you look up here again, is one of the little dots on the map. I guess you could call it a city. It is pretty much a city. But I mean, by today's standards, it's not really a city because the whole state has about the population of what we consider a city these days. So anyway, Casper, no hotels, big surprise. I mean, it's right in the middle of the complete, blackout zone. There's a lot of people coming to the cowboy state, Odakoven said. Given Wyoming is an easy drive from Colorado, which legalizes the medical and recreational use of marijuana, WSCOP wants to ensure that those crossing the border know that marijuana use and possession are illegal even if someone has a medical marijuana card from another state. Boo. For all intents and purposes, marijuana is still a criminal offense in Wyoming, Odakoven said. So I just want to talk to all the people out there that have been yelling about fascism lately because of the things that are going on around the country surrounding, at first it sounds like it's some kind of a protest about some statue getting removed. And then all of a sudden you go to the rally and it's a bunch of either left-wing extremists or right-wing extremists, Nazis, and KKK people walking around without even having hoods on. And then you have these diehard Confederate types who I'm not really sure exactly what their motive is for carrying around their flags. But it seems like a lot of hate and racism to me. So anyway, besides all that, before I get sidetracked into that shit, what I see here is that this is fascism. When you're telling somebody what you think is or is not medicine, and that you would give them criminal penalties for, basically disobeying them. And banning a substance is basically a fascist move. It's saying that you're not to be trusted with what you're going to put into your body as far as dangerous things. That's just fascism 101, all right? So let's just get through that. This police officer here, what he's talking about is fascism. Under Wyoming drug laws, marijuana use and possession under 3 ounces are misdemeanor offenses punishable by fines and potential imprisonment of 6 to 12 months in jail for a first-time offender. 3 ounces. And if you have 3 ounces, that's a felony. Tell me how that's not fascism again? Now let's change the marijuana here. Let's change that out with alcohol. That doesn't still hold true. Now the only thing about having like prescription meds is if you either don't have the name, your name isn't the one on the DEA's number that's on the bottle with your name on there too. If that's not the case, then you're breaking the law. If you have too many pills, like if your bottle says it's supposed to be 90 and you got like 100 or something like that, that's you're breaking the law there too. Problem is they're not gonna go berserk if you do that pill thing, and most cops probably will just turn a blind eye to it completely. With the alcohol, are you kidding? I could drive a fucking U-Haul up to the liquor store and tell them, I could go in there and tell them to write it up, cash it out, write them a check if I had the money or whatever. Say like, you had to have a card that would cover it, like a really good credit card, or you got a bank card, like a debit card, and you actually have that much money in there. And you're like, fuck it, I'm going to cash you out. And you buy the whole liquor store, every bottle of booze and beer that they have, load it into your truck, and you can go wherever the fuck you want with that. Not only is that enough liquor to kill a half of a town like Casper, but it's also highly flammable. Like if you got hit by something else and there was something that sparked that flame, that shit could blow up big time. So I don't get this overabundance of caution with cannabis. Everywhere where marijuana is being legalized, it's the same story, man. It's still, oh, you have too much, you can get this kind of ticket. What the fuck happened to it being legal? I mean, you're just telling me that I'm still doing something wrong by giving me fines for possessing too much or whatever the fuck that even means. I mean, we kind of understand where they're coming from with the alcohol. Like, oh yeah, once you, the end user, buys it, then you pay the final taxes, and all the taxes have been paid on it. So the government no longer gives a fuck about it. It's out of their hands. They're not regulating it anymore. You are old enough to buy it, so that's all that matters, right? Boom, out the door. You now are possessing something the government has no interest in. Unless, of course, you provide it to somebody that's under 21. Which in the marijuana world, we hear all these really bad things about, oh, the youth are going to use marijuana more and all this shit, and it's going to kill their brains, and their developing brains are going to melt before they get developed, which is total horse shit, by the way. But anyway, you get $1,000 fine if you sell it. It's called contributing to the delinquency of a minor. I think the first offense is only $1,000, and maybe it's more. I don't know, but whatever. If it was marijuana and they wanted to make a big deal out of that, it would be ridiculous. So whatever. So same old story. Was cop launched the There Is No Debate Marijuana Community Awareness Campaign as part of an ongoing education-focused efforts to prevent criminal activities in the state. More like just to scare people about marijuana. We'll see. Anyway, Oda Coven said, since Colorado legalized adult use cannabis, Wyoming has seen an increase of marijuana-related incidences, he said. I still don't believe that. I'd have to see the actual numbers. To me, that's just total hearsay. Anyway, quote, we look to be the educator to help deal with the criminal activity of the day, he said, noting that criminal activity includes tobacco, youth access to alcohol, methamphetamine, domestic violence, pharmaceutical abuse, and now marijuana. Like marijuana just started existing when Colorado legalized it. You realize that Wyoming is right in the middle of the pipeline from Mexico right to Canada? They're right smack dab in the middle, and up here, up north, there's more places to keep your distribution network going towards Canada. I don't know what I'm even talking about, man. Like you act like marijuana just fell off the boat yesterday and was never a problem until Colorado legalized it by at the end qualifying it with the word now. What in the fuck, dude? That is totally disingenuous. There is no debate. So let's look at this thing that he's talking about, like, is some kind of a big deal. And here's the actual website. Thereisnodebate.org. There's nothing there. And then you go to this other one that I had to dig around and find. It's the Campbell County Prevention Council. And I believe that, I'm not sure, but I think that's where Casper is. And if you look at it, It's got the list down here, but it's like hard to even see. Okay, yeah. But for their cover story, it's all weed, dude. There's no debate. And the logo, it's weed. So all these other problems are down here in the corner. Like, you got to actually look for that: suicide prevention, tobacco prevention, drug abuse prevention, blah blah blah. I mean, that's those might be real important issues, but instead, this is focused squarely on marijuana. Acceptance leads to normalization, and this seals the deal for higher teen marijuana use. Wrong. If you talk to Colorado or any other place that's legalized it, teen use is not a story to be told. There's really nothing going on there. Practices, training, and competition are more difficult for a weakened athlete. Okay, so they're saying that marijuana equals a weakened athlete. I can pull up a dozen studies and random articles about the fact that that's total bullshit. All right. The outcomes of teen marijuana use are unpredictable. I might have to agree. I would agree with that. But that doesn't mean they're all bad outcomes. All right. You can't say that unequivocally. And if you pulled up a random sampling of 100 people and said everybody that smoked weed when they were teenagers stand over here, you wouldn't be able to just pick them out. You know, you wouldn't know who they were before you separated them. They pretty much all are the same. Study, homework, tests, and grades are all jeopardized by marijuana. That's not even close to true. I just did a story not too long ago where I read something about that, and there's definitely nothing that proves anything to do with test scores, homework, performance, studying abilities, or any of that being jeopardized or affected by marijuana. And back to that other one with the studying shit, I would have to say that where you have an illegal market and you don't have access to, like, say, sativa versus just you get hybrid or indica shit all the time, this might be an issue right here. Like in Wyoming, or where, yeah, that's where we're talking about still, Wyoming, yeah. Where the issue there is that people are getting that fucking brickweed. You don't know what the fuck that is. Or people are like, you know, they're getting over the border with that good Colorado weed, but who knows what they're getting. They don't care. It's not a matter of labeling it and doing quality control or any of that shit. So anyway, yeah, your black market weed is probably, you know, you can say some bad things about it, but this is all over the top reefer madness, par for the course. Right here, total reefer madness, fucking good old classic standby. The potency of today's marijuana makes it more dangerous than ever. Well, that's the funny thing is that's a true statement. You know why? Because it's never been dangerous and it still isn't. So, haha, gotcha. You didn't actually make a lie there. That wasn't totally a lie. But the potency of today's marijuana does make it safer to smoke because you don't have to smoke as much. And chances are it's not contaminated because it did go through some quality control measures or was grown organically because it's medical marijuana. And here's another classic cannabis 101 reefer madness go-to guy. Marijuana impairs driving and increases risks for crash-related fatalities. Both wrong on all accounts. Impairs driving. Marijuana doesn't impair driving like alcohol does. So again, like with the other propaganda where you're talking about safety and whatnot earlier, when you're talking about impairing drivers, that's only alcohol. Now people will argue, oh, some pharmaceuticals too. Well, the thing about that is usually the driving performance is not as bad as alcohol. I will still say really shitty if you're on too many pills and you're about to pass out. But what really gets people is when they actually pass out at the wheel. That's when them become fucking dangerous as hell. Marijuana, you don't have the risk of passing out at the wheel. Maybe once again, if you're in Wyoming and you buy some marijuana from the guy at the corner and on the way home you smoke a joint while you're driving and it's like an hour drive to get back to Casper or wherever the fuck you had to go. Yeah, man, you might fall asleep if that shit's 100% indica. I'm not saying it's not dangerous to do that. I would be like, probably being a little bit on the dangerous side. But I've said many times, though, if you're careful and you do the proper, like, hey, I'm not just going to light a dab up, pound that dab, and then, hey, let's go for a ride. It doesn't work like that. But anyway, once again, I'm spending way too much time on this good old classic reefer bullshit. Acceptance leads to normalization. Yeah, we've seen it. So anyway, back to these guys. Um, Wyoming's services and infrastructure could very well be put under immense strain in a short period of time, so officials say they're sending an advance warning on marijuana. Didn't you say something about you have a meth problem and people are killing themselves in record numbers out there in Wyoming, and you got like kids using cigarettes and underage drinking is rampant? Or whatever all those things you were talking about earlier. Why do you keep focusing on marijuana, man? All those other things are real problems. Quote, we need everybody to be clearly thinking. Okay, everybody should be smoking marijuana, but I'm not going to recommend anybody bring or smoke marijuana in Wyoming because that's all they're looking for, it sounds like. All right, so if everyone's clearly thinking that we can minimize the impact to public safety while everybody's here, said Rhea Parsons, director of There Is No Debate campaign. Geez, that's if you wanted to decide where you're gonna go see this eclipse. I think you should go to Oregon personally. That would be my preference. And here's why you should get high and watch the Oregon eclipse. On August 21st, a solar eclipse will take place, and the best location on the planet to watch it happens to be Oregon. An estimated 1 million visitors, so that's double what Wyoming's anticipating. 1 million visitors are headed to Oregon next month for the eclipse, whether to attend a massive festival or blah, blah, blah. I'm going to read the redundant stuff from the other article and probably skip a bunch of that one too. So anyway, pot shops in particular are getting shipments of fun, astronomically themed products, strains like Moon Puppies, for instance, in celebration of the eclipse. Moon Puppies is a cross between lemon skunk and chemdog. Cha-ching, yummy. Christensen's shop expects at least 2 to 3 times increase in sales thanks to the eclipse. However, there's little Oregon cultivators can do to grow more weed at this point. Still, dispensaries are ordering more product. Oregon's Finest, for example, ordered 25% more and is planning on offering special packages and eclipse glasses. Quote, I think events like this overcome that stigma because we get to talk to more people and provide that education that is really needed, says Christensen. And on that education front, he's basically just educate them on the actual safety of cannabis so that when someone buys a treat, you say to them, okay, if you eat too much of it, it will be really intense, but don't worry, you're not going to die because no one ever has, and you can't possibly. Maybe there's other things. With so many out-of-towners coming into a legal state, many for the first time will be able to buy weed legally and see how legalization operates. So if you're headed to Oregon, ganja tourism will look a little different this time. Here are some reasons to pick up a stash and head out to watch the eclipse. This almost never happens. This is the first total solar eclipse to touch the continental United States since 1979. It specifically touches down on the coastal Oregon between Lincoln City and Newport at 10:15 a.m. Before it touches Oregon, the moon's shadow or umbra won't touch any other island or landmass. The eclipse will be trippy. I think. High Times did a write-up about it, and their take on it was that weed and booze sales skyrocket as Oregon prepares. Oregon. What's up, Pedro? As the booze and weed sales skyrocket as they prepare for the solar eclipse. With an estimated 1 million extra people headed to Oregon, demand for weed and booze is at an all-time high. The Oregon Liquor Control Commission is expecting anywhere from 20 to 40% increases in sales surrounding the eclipse and is urging stores to stock up early so their deliveries don't get stuck in traffic. Big money can only be made if the product gets there on time. Now, remember earlier when we were talking about Wyoming, and I'm like, I think he's talking about alcohol because what he's not, they didn't say anything about alcohol, and that's the one that people are actually getting killed in accidents on the roadways. So the OLCC is keeping tabs on international groups headed to Oregon from China and Brazil, anticipating what kinds of liquor their guests are going to want. Oregon liquor sales have been climbing these past several years, but now with the solar eclipse, they're expecting to break records, especially in small towns where the so-called path of totality will pass through. And that's what's going to happen in, Wyoming. A concern of emergency personnel is thousands of stoned people wandering around the outdoors during the peak of Oregon's fire season and the roads driving to where they'll see and watch the eclipse. I don't know about the stoned people, but maybe the people that took over 10 hits of acid or the people that drank a bunch of, I mean, this thing's going on in the early morning hours. Well, not early, but it's going on in the morning. All right, this isn't like at night or anything. So the people that are be drinking, I don't understand that. Maybe they're just like all weekend partying and then Monday morning wake up and, oh shit, I got a hangover, but here's this eclipse. Last time a total solar eclipse was visible across the entire contiguous United States was on June 8th, 1918. With more than 12 million people living in the path of totality and millions more traveling to see this historic eclipse, the rush to make money is also on, reported the Los Angeles Times. Hotels have been sold out for years. Eclipse viewing glasses are backordered on Amazon. Airbnb reports that people are charging thousands for one night stay in their homes. There are eclipse-specific t-shirts, mugs, posters, books, iPhone cases, pillows, and leggings to be sold. Even porta potty rental companies are getting in on this shit show, as you might know. And it should be a good show, depending on where you're at. I mean, if you're in the area of totality, that is definitely where you will see total blackness for a period of time, depending on where you're at. But anyway, I just thought I would check in on everybody and throw this story out there. Wyoming, leave it home. I would say just skip Wyoming and go to Oregon. That would be what I would do.